Whether they are consciously aware of it or not, the whole of humanity is currently grieving the loss of freedom. Everything going on in the world is and has always been a mere reflection of the problem existing inside our minds. Many people remain in denial of the problems with the human psyche, just as they are in denial of the massive conspiracy to enslave humanity. To stop the robbery of the evolution of mankind, we all must individually come to a new understanding about life. The understanding that the conspiracy causing the threat to the continuation of human existence and the illness in our minds is one and the same. The human race currently has an absolutely amazing opportunity to create a future that was once only a cross between science fiction and our wildest imaginations. A future of complete freedom, abundance, and mind-blowing technological advancement for every single one of us in a world of peace. In order for us to reach our true potential, we must first undo what has been done by becoming consciously aware of the subconscious conditioning that has been going on our entire lives.
Cosgrove, how come you never got married?
Because I like meat too much.
You could be married and still eat a lot of meat.
I didn't know that.
Gary! I was just looking for the sports channel, Gary. Here we are, Barney boy, costumers. What kind of costume you gonna get?
Well, I'm gonna get something that makes me look tall.
How about another head?
Another one? What do I need 3 of them for?
Timmy, where's Lassie?
She's out in the orchard, Ma. Peaches are coming in mighty early this year.
Smoke.
You know what they say, Timmy. Early peaches, long summer.
Smoke.
Hey, Seth. Do me a favor and press the water fountain button there.
Sure. Just push it.
Yeah, when I say go. Okay, go.
They're all covered with filthy germs, aren't they, Smithers?
Why, what do you mean, sir?
Freemasons run the country!
Pimps and chuds.
Oh, I'd love to see New York. We could all go with the bus company's special super sitter fare. $9? This one's on me. Great!
On, good ears.
Oh, April, you spoiled our surprise. We were going to clean everything up.
Thanks, guys. Where's Splinter?
He's been up on the roof ever since he saw your report.
Really? Doing what?
Coming to a decision.
My name is... What? My name
The easiest way to control a population is to do as the old saying goes, divide and conquer. For if we are not together, we are separate. And if we are separate, we are alone and afraid. So what has been going on is that the controllers of the American oligarchy have taken, and in some cases created, the means to divide us, and have exploited those means through what else but the mainstream media, their number one brainwash and propaganda weapon. The behaviors of actors and actresses in the television shows you watch is programmed into you whether you like it or not. For this is the way your subconscious mind was designed, to be heavily influenced by that which we allow ourselves to see. So if you're wondering why your husband or wife cheated on you, why people soup up and race their cars in the streets, why your girlfriend is so dramatic, or why you got in a fight at your high school prom because it wasn't perfect like in the movies, now you know. The lies and the brainwash have completely falsified reality for so many people in America that they aren't even aware of how blatant it all is. Lies have become truth in the Western world, and those living outside of the continent of America see it all quite clearly.
I'm in Germany right now. I'm talking to guys who are 80 years old. Now, people are a little healthier here. They ride bikes, they hike up the mountain at 80 years old. No one's taking any drugs. But these guys and gals that I'm chatting with here in Germany were around during Adolf Hitler. And you know what they tell me? They look at me like, they say, are you Americans crazy? You are doing the exact same thing that we did under Adolf Hitler. We wanted to give up our freedoms so that he could protect us. You are doing the exact same thing in America.
Less than 3% of you people read books. Because less than 15% of you read newspapers. Because the only truth you know is what you get over this tube. Right now, there is an entire generation that never knew anything that didn't come out of this tube. This tube is the gospel, the ultimate revelation. This tube can make or break presidents, popes, prime ministers. This tube is the most awesome goddamn force in the whole godless world. And woe is us if it ever falls into the hands of the wrong people. And that's why woe is us that Edward George Ruddy died. Because this company is now in the hands of CCA, the Communication Corporation of America. There's a new chairman of the board, a man called Frank Hackett, sitting in Mr. Ruddy's office on the 20th floor. And when the 12th largest company in the world controls the most awesome goddamn propaganda force in the whole godless world, who knows what shit will be peddled for truth on this network?
The human mind has two main areas of thought, the left brain and the right brain. The left side of your brain, responsible for the right side of your body, is the part of you that seeks logic, facts, and structure. Whereas the right side of your brain, responsible for the left side of your body, is what produces emotion, intuition, and creativity. Both aspects of the brain are equally important, and to have them working together as one is to be at peace with yourself. The education system and the media purposefully leave little room for creativity and both subconsciously direct us to becoming completely left-brained and emotionless, like robots. When you have a society of left-brain thinkers, you have eliminated the power to love and created what is known as the ego. The ego is the part of us that sees us as separate from everyone and everything.
Will it ever change? Will they all bow
Anything that our ego doesn't like about ourselves, it represses. So when you live life with an ego, you're throwing away half of your existence. And because of this, most people live life very insecurely and dependent on the opinions of others. We are programmed to think we are imperfect, dumb, angry, and worthless, to stop us from soaring to our true potential.
So today we're going the wrong way about it. We are literally half-witted.
Yes,
you know, we are people who are working with only half of the mind and only a very small part of that.
Yes.
So the right brain is more inclusive. It's holistic. It deals with alchemy. Alchemy sees the whole in every part, whereas physics sees the part within the whole.
Yes.
Physics divides and separates.
Yes.
Physics reduces the divine to the human, whereas alchemy takes the human up to the divine.
Everybody is born pure and loving, and through a lifetime of media and educational programming, we have been taught to hate ourselves. If you see yourself as strong and confident, it is likely that you have suppressed your sensitive and vulnerable nature. We must all learn to accept both sides. Once we face our fears and become conscious of that which is destroying our minds, our lives will completely turn around, and instead of living life based on fear and hate, we can begin to love ourselves and love others, and only then will we see peace.
Always, it seems the first step towards an evolved consciousness is the understanding that every soul on this planet is here to learn to love. And, you know, while this might sound like kind of stoned hippie talk or something, it's really not. Every tradition says that same thing, that the first step is to understand that we're here to learn to love. And to be evolved means to love and to love fully and to be love.
The brilliant psychoanalyst Carl Jung stressed how important it is for us to honor our dualistic nature, for only then are we capable of finding self-confidence and self-worth, not dependent on praise from others and affected by criticisms. What's interesting is that what's going on in the mind is a microcosm of what we're seeing on planet Earth for humanity as a whole. The Western world, representing the masculine and physical nature, seeks to give the world structure, rules, and laws. And the Eastern world is the feminine and spiritual side of the human culture. Today we are seeing a war between the East and West, so just as our minds are in conflict with one another, the external manifestation that is occurring is a battle between the Eastern and Western world. The external world is, in fact, nothing more than a reflection of our internal self. So what the Illuminati are trying to do is create a reality separate from God, and make us suppress the only thing that makes us different from machines: love. And if we do not seek and accept the truth that the foundation of all human existence is love, then our souls will force this evolution upon us through illness or crisis, on an individual level and for humanity as a whole. And that's exactly what we're seeing today. I think it's time that you ask yourself, am I living life based on love or fear? Fear separates and love connects.
Love is the answer. That's the bottom line. Love is the answer. Love does conquer all. Love does move mountains. It can make the shifts in consciousness, but it starts number one with ourselves.
If you see someone laughing at the expense of another person, they're only laughing because they're afraid. They're afraid that what they're laughing at might happen to them. Someone who is living life based on love will not find humor in the misfortune of another person. you're enlightened, you'll look better, you'll feel better, your health will improve, you'll be smarter than ever before, and you'll feel like a kid again. You'll be curious, playful, and you'll always be seeking to evolve yourself.
Being enlightened means feeling connected to every person in your life. Your relationships will go from constant struggle and competition to mutual respect and understanding. A life of fear and stress will turn into a life of total ease and comfort.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
Television's a goddamn amusement park. In God's name, you people are the real thing. We are the illusion. Come on! Oh!
More of us really need to start taking the perspective that what we're doing here isn't right. We need to get in touch with what's out there, with just the whole idea that, God, how did we get here? What makes me be here? As opposed to going home after work, turning on TV, watching 3 hours of television, going to bed, getting up the next morning, going to work, and doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, like robots. Throw the televisions away. Just throw them away.
Colton has a TV.
By the proper mental, emotional disciplines, we can become healthy individuals in terms of our minds, our emotions, our hearts, and our jobs. These are the things we've got to work for. And if it means that we must do it, we can, with one quick twist of the wrist, get rid of most of the corruptions of society and face the fact that these are imaginary corruptions. We've got plenty of real ones. We don't have to build them up that way. What we have got to do is find out what corruptions are still lurking in us and correct them. And as soon as we correct the mistakes in ourselves, we begin to see better values in other people, because we see in others usually what we are ourselves focused upon. So don't let the great big bad tube get you. Be very careful about it, and when uncertain, turn it off. And you'll find that if you turn it off to do something interesting, beautiful, or wonderful, you will never miss it again.
Americans spend nearly $4 trillion a year on healthcare, and yet they are among the least healthy people in the world. Something is not right here, and what we need is a new outlook, a new view on health.
We have the wrong approach in America. We are looking to medicine to try to get us healthy. They know nothing about health, nothing.
Most medical doctors, I believe, are inherently good people with good intentions, but they cannot improve your health because they've been given the wrong information.
If you got a lobotomy, you'd be smarter than any of the doctors when it comes to health.
In fact, doctors receive on average only 2.5 hours of nutritional instruction in 6 years of medical school.
Anytime I feel myself getting sick or anything, I just know it's imperative to go raw, and that's how I've raised my kids. They know as soon as they get sick, okay, you've been eating quite a lot of cooked or processed food. The number one thing to improve their diet, I would say, to increase the amount of raw organic food that you consume.
Fats play a most vital role in human health and are among our most important nutrients. Not only do they help burn fat, relieve migraines, and prevent heart disease, but deficiencies have been linked to everything from schizophrenia to hair loss. Your body is made up of 50 to 75 trillion cells, and fats are what is used to create the outer membrane of every one of those cells. And so it's not hard to see the importance of consuming the right kinds of fat. The fats that your body needs are called essential fatty acids, which are comprised of omega-3s and omega-6s. And what's important is the proper 1-to-1 ratio of these molecules. The average American diet consists of a 20-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3, and sometimes as high as 50-to-1. This is due to the overconsumption of the wrong kinds of fats from eating fast food and other processed foods. A good source of omega-3 can be found in leafy green vegetables and in seeds and nuts, but supplementing is still essential for good health. When looking for a supplement, make sure the oil is cold-pressed, organic, and with a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-3s and omega-6s. Ozone is nature's most powerful disinfectant and purifying agent. It is a gas that is produced when the sun's UV radiation comes in contact with Earth's oxygen, and when air is exposed to a high voltage electric arc. This is why air smells pure and fresh after a thunderstorm. Ozone is like the oxygen we breathe, except it has another oxygen atom, which is unstable and searching for a mate to pair up with.
It is the O1 that we use as ozone for the body.
Guess what else is searching for another atom to pair with? All bacteria, fungi, germs, and viruses, which cannot live when in contact with oxygen.
And actually, ozone inside the human body, or oxygen, this singlet oxygen, is what white blood cells use to kill bacteria.
It is the perfect solution to completely purify our bodies.
The air we breathe is 19% oxygen. Put it through a pump, put it through an ozone generator, which Russ will show you, and bubble it through the water, and the ozone will be dissolved in the water, which you drink. You have the equivalent of an oxygen bar, which is springing up all over Tokyo and New York City. And when we turn this on, you'll notice,
I'm just plugging it in there.
Okay, that this little aeration stone that's used in aquariums for fish will begin bubbling. Can you see that on camera all right? We'll try to get this on the camera side of the glass. Now, the ozone is highly soluble in water, but it has a half-life of about 20 minutes in warm water, an hour or so in cold, chilled ice water. The ozone is the greatest detoxifying agent known to man. Some cities in Germany use ozone to clean their water instead of chlorine, other things that we do. So if we drink this now, we'll detoxify in a couple of days and eliminate poisons which have been in your body for many years.
People talk about, well, ozone, don't breathe the ozone. Again, what is ozone doing? Ozone actually deactivates every known negative compound that exists in the world. Where this original research came from about not breathing ozone, as an example, came from mice. And they put a huge amount of ozone into the air, and they found that within the first 3 days there was a pulmonary edema, fluid built up in the lungs. But then what they didn't report is that after those 3 days, the lungs returned to normal, and no matter how much ozone they put into the container, where the mice were, they could not induce death into the mice whatsoever. So what the ozone does is it will clean out chemicals that are in your lungs, and that's what happens when you breathe it. Now, it does cause an irritation, so I suggest not breathing ozone. Okay, but by ozonating the water, what you're doing is putting that in, and by drinking the water, you're getting that direct delivery system of the ozone right into the bloodstream through the stomach and the intestines. And what you're actually doing is giving this singlet oxygen to the body so that white blood cells can do their job.
No medicine in the world has anywhere near this low of a side effect rate. Today there are people all over the world using ozone to clean their pools, hot tubs, and ponds, for it destroys bacteria more than 3,000 times faster than chlorine or bromine. With ozone, you can also deodorize and remove the smell of smoke from your car or home. Clean and eliminate pesticides from fruit and vegetables. Remove bacteria and antibiotics from meat and fish. Eliminate bad breath, sanitize wounds, and disinfect toothbrushes, dentures, and contacts, all in just minutes or seconds. Consider this a blueprint for the restructuring of society in the years to come. We don't need medical doctors for anything other than the reparation of physical injuries and perhaps childbirth. We also don't need dentists once we get the fluoride and the sugar out of our diets. Oh look, toothpaste has both sugar and fluoride in it. We also don't need eye doctors.
Hello, this is Dr. Mercola, and you know that 3 out of 4 people believe that their vision is their most important sense. This is probably related to the fact that 80% of the information we take in from our environment comes in through our eyes. Well, unfortunately, most of us, or many of us, don't have ideal vision and tend to resort to other interventions to help to restore that to the point that we can see better. And many people use eyeglasses. And I want to tell you now, if you don't know already, that that is not an ideal way to compensate for this, because eyeglasses were never designed to be the perfect solution. And part of this is related to the fact that when you have less than perfect vision, it is not a static process. In other words, your eyesight will change gradually better and worse throughout the day. And what an eyeglass is it's a fixed correction, and it will partially correct, maybe ideally correct for it sometimes in the day, but the other times it's going to be off. So it's really not the perfect way to do this. And hopefully, if it's reasonably close to what the visual dysfunction is, you'll be able to see better. But invariably, with time, everyone who's wearing a corrective lens will worsen their vision. About 100 years ago, there was an incredibly innovative, pioneering, renegade physician. His name was Dr. Bates. And he first started practicing about 1900, and for 30 years he compiled a number of incredible strategies, and actually developed, used an instrument called the retinoscope to do comprehensive physical examinations on tens of thousands of patients to support his findings and his recommendations. But he was able to help tens of thousands of people recover their vision completely without the use of any surgery or any glasses.
I can teach you how to correct your vision, but you must understand first why your vision went from good to worse. The earliest written record of glasses dates back to 1 AD, where magnification lenses were used in order to read and write. So back then, and all the way up until the 1800s, people were suffering from farsightedness, where they could only see objects at a distance. Today it is the opposite, for most people can only see objects a short distance away. So what happened between then and now that changed this? Well, back then, most people were farmers and were accustomed to looking far off into the distance. In this day and age, people spend most of their time staring at computer screens, televisions, and books. So in order to restore your vision, we've got to create a balance by looking far as often as we do near, and without squinting. The most important thing to remember is to relax your eyes. When we focus on objects close in proximity, our ciliary muscles flex to shape the lens. And if our eyes are constantly being strained, they will not relax and focus properly when we try to see objects far away from us. Become conscious of when your eye muscles are straining throughout the day, and gently massage around them to release that tension as often as you need. And remember, your eyes are a miraculous gift. There is one more thing you can do, and it will not only help you relax your eyes, but your entire body, and it will change your life dramatically. The body can survive weeks without food and days without water, but only minutes without oxygen, rendering oxygen our most vital nutrient. So it's important for you to breathe properly to obtain the oxygen that your body needs in the most efficient manner.
Breathing is one of the most basic of all physiological functions, and it's one of the few physiological functions we can quickly alter. Breathing is crucial to proper oxygenation of the body, and particularly in the case of someone who's at a computer, the brain. It's so cliche, but it is so true that stress is at the core of most chronic diseases. Definitely true of heart disease, almost certainly true of cancer. Immunological disorders almost always have a stress component. Therefore, anything that reduces your stress is good for you. Most people, especially when they're in a stressful environment or they're preoccupied with other tasks at hand, they tend to breathe only in their chest. which means that the lungs are being used to maybe half of their capacity, such that the air is moving out of the total height of the lungs only within the top half of the lungs.
Breathing is very important. Remember, go back to your child's breathing and try to breathe slow through the nose and through the stomach. So instead of to just use the upper part of the lungs, you're going to use the lower part of your belly. Okay, that's where the oxygen is. So when you inhale, you expand your lower abdomen. When you exhale, you relax the lower abdomen. All the breathing is through the nose. Okay, so that's very important. Always try to breathe through the lower abdomen. It will lower your blood pressure, it will calm you down.
The problem is, for most of us, is that we spend our lives breathing from the top of our chest. What breath practitioners tell us is that if we're breathing from the top of our chest, we're breathing in a state of fear. And one of the first things that we can do is to become aware of our breathing and to consciously begin to start breathing from deep within our lungs. And in doing so, we are bringing not only the Holy Spirit in, or inviting the Holy Spirit into our bodies, but we are literally prolonging our lives. So while it sounds simple, again, the body system is designed not to be a complicated thing. It is designed to be simple. And if we're breathing more properly, that is going to increase our intelligence. It's going to increase our longevity. It's also going to give us expanded spiritual capacity as well.
What we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system with a kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, and that's a great thing because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then, come on, first grade leads to second grade and so on, and then you get out of grade school, you go to high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. And then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance. And they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, this thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing, the success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. And there's a slight letdown because you feel there's a hoax. And there was a hoax. A dreadful hoax. They made you miss everything. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end, success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played.
So we're going to have to recognize that all the compromising that we do in order to accomplish our own personal desires, all these things, all this compromise leads to nothing. It never has succeeded, never can. For all this great struggle of competitive materialism ends at the grave. And we take with us out of this life only what we brought in ourselves. So with this, it shouldn't be so difficult for the individual to say to himself, let's make this daily life a little happier for everyone. Let's try to do it right for a change.
I'm going to miss you when you go.
I'll miss you too, Ron. But you're wrong if you think that the joy of life comes principally from human relationships. God's placed it all around us. It's in everything, in anything we can experience. People just need to change the way they look at those things.
People don't know what they are. People really don't know what kind of a being they are. And because of that,
which is in many cases kept purposely away from them. They're manipulated.
How can you get a grasp of your own life and take any kind of control of your own experience if you don't know who you are, where you are, or the nature of the world you're living in? And this information for me is by far the most important.
The chief responsibility you have to do is to know what you are and be a human being, not a human doing. If we truly knew what we were, we would never do what we're doing.
Although our package of skin and bones looks very convincing, it is a mask, an illusion disguising our true self, which has no limitations.
Every physical visible force is merely a manifestation of one of these great invisible streams of energy that functions in space. To the ancients, the earth had invisible principles. The earth was not merely a lump. The whole planet is a vast organism, a tremendous, vital, dynamic structure. For as the ancients put it, the earth is alive.
God did not create the universe. God became the universe.
The human being and the universe itself are both one and the same phenomena. In other words, every human being is a miniature universe, and each of us contains within us all the forces and possibilities of the greater universe.
Your eyes are the eyes of the universe, and when you look at an object, it's the universe looking at itself through those eyes.
Space within us, the pure conscious mind within us, and outer space are all one being, that we're all part of this huge, wonderful, infinite, quantum holographic universe that's awake.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
If there's a dimension called form, there's another dimension called thought. I call it thought. You can call it anything you want to. In philosophy, they call it the astral dimension. And the word disaster originates from this, to disassociate from the astral, or from this invisible dimension of you. And as long as you disassociate from this and live only here, you will have disasters in your life. Because you won't believe that somehow the part of you that thinks, that is thought, that creates thought, is essentially what your humanity is. And most folks don't get that. They think that this is it.
The only thing that's real is consciousness. And because we are all part of the greater universal being, we are all connected in a most fundamental way.
Many people come up with a different definition for consciousness in their studies. And it's really useful for us all to have an agreement when we get started here of what consciousness is. And one that I've found works really well, and I'll just throw it out as an idea, is that consciousness is the awareness of being aware. Whenever you've noticed yourself noticing something, you have been experiencing your own consciousness.
You see, the Big Bang occurred merely as a result of the Creator's will and intention to experience himself. And so it expanded outwards and manifested itself as consciousness into everything that exists. So not only are we a part of God, but we possess all the unlimited power to create as God does. And our free will was his greatest gift of all. Through the fabric of space and time, scientists have recently been able to measure and demonstrate our connected consciousness.
The Global Consciousness Project is an evolutionary step out of 50 years of prior experiments. The experiments were looking at the relationship between mind and matter. I mean, it all devolves back into the question, what is the role of mind in the physical world?
A question tonight, can you actually measure the emotional outpouring in a worldwide crisis?
Sometimes scientists think that they have done just that. Their machines and computers found a bizarre pattern right after several global disasters.
CBS 2's Brendan Keefe explains this phenomenon.
September 11th deeply affected people far beyond New York and Washington. The attack sent shockwaves around the world, a global reaction that triggered a spike in a network of scientific instruments, just like a seismograph during an earthquake.
Each of those showed a similar pattern of change during that day.
Retired Princeton scientist Dr. Roger Nelson believes the emotional focus of millions of people on a single event, like 9/11, may form a global consciousness.
Does consciousness interact directly with the physical world?
To answer that question, Dr. Nelson and his colleagues deployed dozens of instruments around the world, random number generators. Basically, they're electronic coin flippers. Instead of heads or tails, each generates a 1 or a 0 200 times a second. If you flip a coin 100 times, you'd expect a result of about 50-50, 50 heads and 50 tails. But what if every time you flipped that coin, it came up heads? Not once, not twice, not 50 times, but 60, 70, or even 80, all of them heads.
We do that every second at each of, now we have about 65 places around the world.
When truly random, the line of data wanders back and forth around 50-50 in a pattern the researchers call a drunkard's walk.
And then on 9/11, it begins not being a drunkard's walk. It goes like this for 2 days.
It may sound bizarre, but Dr. Nelson and his team have been at this for the better part of a decade. The first spike showed up in 1997 with the death of Princess Diana. Other events like the Concorde crash, the Madrid train bombing, and the Pope's funeral all registered on those random number generators. But early on the morning of September 11th, the data went off the charts.
Several hours before the first plane hit.
How does it work, and what does it all mean? Even the scientists don't know. The implications go beyond science into philosophy and religion. All we know is this: at this very moment, around the globe, the random number generators keep flipping those virtual coins, waiting to record our collective reaction to the next major world event. At Princeton, Brendan Keefe, CBS 2 News.
The secret is that we have tremendous power and we do not realize our power, and this is the biggest secret because the authorities are frightened and scared that if human beings were really able to access their power, then the genie is really out of the bottle.
Absolutely.
They would lose their hold over us.
Absolutely.
And they would, they would never be able to get their hold back, and therefore that's why there is this multifaceted operation to dumb us down, to keep us entertained with reality shows and baseball games.
In my dreams I'm dying all the time. Then I wake, it's kaleidoscopic mind. I never meant to hurt you. I never meant to lie. So this is goodbye. This is goodbye. Truth, you never wanted me. Tell me. Dreams I'm jealous all the time.
Do not try and bend the spoon. That's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon?
Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself.
There are
no miracles. No such thing. There's only understanding reality more than you are when you perceive them as miracles. How can it be that you can walk through fire in a certain state of consciousness and not get burned, and you can walk through fire in another state of consciousness and be in the ambulance in 10 minutes? It's simply your connection, your interaction with reality is different. If you believe, and it's programmed into the software, that if you put your hand in fire it will burn, it will burn. But if you can go to another level of consciousness that's beyond that, then you can walk through fire and not get burned, as many people do. That's not a miracle. It's just decoding reality in a different way. And we have the potential to decode a sodding paradise, which is why this has been kept from us.
The human brain has 4 frequencies or speeds at which it cycles information. 90% of individuals live their entire waking lives in only one of these frequencies, and that frequency just so happens to be the least effective one for harnessing the true power of the mind. The beta state is ideal for action, but is terrible for any kind of intelligent thought. The reason that most people live their lives in this state is because of the constant stream of fear they are put in, as well as the consumption of neurotoxins. And this is no coincidence. It's being done on purpose to keep the true power of the mind away from the people. The alpha rhythm is the most effective frequency for thought. It is the key that unlocks the door to the creativity and imagination of the right brain. It has been proven to reduce negative thoughts and emotions, reduce stress, heighten your intuition, enhance study and memory abilities, and improve your communication and rapport with others. The theta brainwave state is a state of heightened emotions. Alpha and theta waves together can induce a state of super learning, where one learns information at a strikingly quicker rate. Children have significantly higher amounts of theta waves than adults do. It is these theta waves that allow them to say what's on their mind and live without fear of trying something new. Entering into the theta brainwave state is what will allow us to access our extrasensory perceptions and abilities, such as telepathy and remote viewing. Delta brainwaves are considered the unconscious level of mind and are usually associated with deep sleep. In some people, however, delta brainwaves are present in waking state. These people tend to have strong intuition and psychic abilities. Frequencies in the delta range have also been linked to healing of the mind and body. In order to harness the full power of your mind, you must consciously enter into and master all 4 brainwave patterns. All of the information in the entire universe of the past, present, and future is available to us. For time is not linear, like we've been led to believe. It is like a pool that we can jump into and access any time we want. It is through the alpha, theta, and delta states which allow us to plug into the universal mind for this purpose. There are many ways to achieve these altered states of consciousness. One way is to listen to music specifically designed for this purpose, called binaural beats. But there is another way that's much more life-changing and profound, put here by the divine to help us increase awareness and consciously evolve.
It's interesting, isn't it interesting that 2 drugs that are legal, alcohol and cigarettes, 2 drugs that do absolutely nothing for you whatsoever, and drugs that grow naturally upon this planet, drugs that open your eyes up to make you realize how you're being fucked every day of your life. Those drugs are against the law. Wow. Coincidence? I don't know.
There are powerful, rigid rules in place which prevent us from experimenting with our own consciousness. You know, my consciousness is what makes me human. It's the most precious aspect of humanity. And I find it extraordinary that in the privacy of my own home, doing no harm to others, I am forbidden by law and may be sent to prison for many years for making use of certain natural plants which shamans, for example, in the Amazon have used for tens of thousands of years to contact the spirit world. It seems to me extraordinary that governments seek to control the experiences we have inside our heads, not what we do, but simply the experiences we have. This is a very sinister development. It's a huge intrusion on the liberty of a responsible adult in an advanced society, and yet we're being persuaded to accept this as the normal run of things.
Why is marijuana against the law? It grows naturally upon our planet. Doesn't the idea of making nature against the law seem to you a bit paranoid? You know what I mean? It's nature. How do you make nature against the fucking law? Grows everywhere, serves 1,000 different functions, all of them positive. To make marijuana against the law is like saying God made a mistake. You know what I mean? It's like God on the seventh day looked down at his creation. There it is, my creation, perfect and holy in all ways. Now I can rest. Oh my me. I left fucking pot everywhere.
To think of someone going from birth to the grave without ever coming tangential to the psychedelic experience. It's like going from the birth to the grave without ever discovering sex.
I think our ancestors discovered altered states of consciousness. And I think they initially discovered these altered states through their encounters with certain plants that they perhaps sampled as food items, such as psilocybin mushrooms, which then completely changed their state of consciousness and put them into direct contact with what they experienced as supernatural beings, with teachings for them. The trick is we have to be in altered states of consciousness to access these teachings. We cannot access them in the normal, alert, competitive, problem-solving state of mind that is so encouraged and praised in modern society today.
The shaman is the figure at the beginning of human history that unites the doctor, the scientist, and the artist into a single notion of caregiving and creativity.
The crucial characteristic of a shaman is that he or she is an individual who has mastered altered states of consciousness, who can put their consciousness into a different place and explore the realms that open up there. So the essence of shamanism is experience and practice. It isn't centuries of so-called knowledge or received wisdom handed down from generation to generation. It isn't a body of texts. It isn't a body of teachings. It's actual direct experience of the supernatural realm attained in deliberately induced altered states of consciousness. The shaman is an active player entering the other realm and negotiating and dealing directly with the spirit beings there for the benefit of humanity.
How seriously then are we to take this, I'll call it an obligation, to follow the shamanic thread back into time? Well, I think that it is a matter of saving our own souls.
I believe that God left certain drugs growing naturally upon our planet to help speed up and facilitate our evolution.
Hallucinogens are a value changer. So is marijuana. Like it or not, it changes your values. It opens up windows, doors of perception, Aldous Huxley called them, and you see things differently.
I'm glad they're against the law. You know what happened when I took them? I lay in a field of green grass for 4 hours going, my God, I love everything. The heavens parted, God looked down and rained gifts of forgiveness onto my being, healing me on every level, psychically, physically, emotionally. And I realized our true nature is spirit, not body, that we are eternal beings, and God's love is unconditional. There's nothing we can ever do to change that. It is only our illusion that we are separate from God or that we are alone. In fact, the reality is we are one with God and He loves us. Now, if that isn't a hazard to this country, what's going to happen to the arms industry when we realize we're all one? It's going to fuck up the economy. The economy that's fake anyway.
You know, it's been our modern idea or prejudice that plants don't have consciousness or intelligence, you know, but I think there are certain experiences you have with these substances where you really do feel there's a kind of mind, a kind of vegetal mind, an intelligence, and actually very, very deep wisdom that speaks through these experiences. And you know, Morgan's idea is that, you know, we're actually like the young species on the planet. We've only been here for 100,000 years. We've been racing around, and we're still on our kind of hero's journey. We're trying to figure out where we fit into the natural order of things. And there's this much larger and much older community of life that includes, you know, microbes, plants, you know, animals, and so on. And so the plant kingdom kind of got together, and they designated certain plants to be ambassadors, kind of diplomats, and teachers to work with the human species, you know, to help us evolve and get to this next level of perception and awareness.
36 people were on what many say was a life-changing trip, but none of them ever left a university laboratory. They volunteered to take the psychedelic ingredient that puts the so-called magic in certain kinds of mushrooms. And now there's a surprising follow-up. CNN's Carol Costello joins us live with the results. Carol, what's happening now?
Well, John, maybe the hippies of the 60s weren't just on something. Maybe they were onto something. Scientists at Johns Hopkins now say magic mushrooms really can expand your mind, producing a kind of religious experience. 14 months ago, they gave dozens of volunteers magic mushrooms, and today, those volunteers are still feeling the effects. The whole Johns Hopkins study seems just so hippy-dippy 60s. It brings to mind Timothy Leary, the man who first widely touted the alleged magic in this tiny mushroom.
5 years ago, by accident in Mexico, I took Mexican mushrooms.
Leary, a Harvard researcher, claimed his mushroom-induced psychotic trip was so spiritual it led him and a generation to
turn on, tune in, and drop out.
Yeah, until the federal government stepped in and made hallucinogenic drugs illegal. Fast forward to 2006 and this research room at Johns Hopkins. 36 volunteers took part in an initial study on whether psilocybin, the active ingredient in magic mushrooms, really does have a lasting spiritual effect on people. Dee Dee Osborne, a business consultant, volunteered to find out.
It's a beautiful feeling. I've not felt anything like that before.
Osborne, lying on this couch, received one dose over an 8-hour period. She saw a kaleidoscope of colors. Then
there was a tearing open of my heart, and then the feeling that we were all one.
The effects of that single session are still with her 14 months later, and with other volunteers. The study says at 2 months, the volunteers rated the experience as having spiritual significance and sustained positive changes in behavior.
Most people had experiences that really looked quite indistinguishable from classically occurring mystical type experiences.
The study is nothing like those done in the 60s. They're far more controlled. The goal is to explore whether this drug could prove therapeutic to those terminally ill.
Volunteers who are under psychological distress secondary to a cancer diagnosis. And the thought here is that an experience of this type, primary mystical experience, might well alter the course and the perception that the individual has of their disease process and quality of life.
As for those volunteers who took that long, strange trip on Johns Hopkins' couch, the study says most have no regrets and feel their world is a better place because of it.
Well, guess what? We've got another drug. It is synthetic, and it makes you love everybody. It's called ecstasy. Now, who doesn't want to take ecstasy?
You know, when I think about it, that first time, it was like 2.5 hours of complete and utter rest. Rest from worry, rest from anxiety.
You can walk up to perfect strangers and have a conversation with them like you've known them your entire life. You smile at people and they smile back. Like, you just feel like part of something, like everyone loves you and you love everyone else.
My 19th birthday party, I had like 15 of my closest friends, and we all did it, and we all just sat in a room and just bonded, and everybody like opened up and shared and gave massages to each other, and it was still, if I look back, probably the best birthday I've ever had.
This morning, the Drug Enforcement Administration is announcing its intention to place the drug known as MDMA, or by the street name ecstasy, under emergency controls in Schedule 1.
I've taken MDMA 100 times over the last 20 years. I feel fine. There are millions of people who have taken MDMA and don't obviously look brain damaged. Somehow in our culture, we've developed this belief in science so much so that we ignore the evidence in front of our own eyes.
When I read some of the stuff that's printed by the government these days about ecstasy, I just laugh. I just break up laughing. I mean, you know, I've read that one pill can cause Parkinson's disease and things like this, and it's like, wow, I know thousands of people that have taken thousands of them, and I don't know anybody who had Parkinson's disease.
I mean, it's embarrassing to be in your 30s and be afraid to go into your house, you know, or to be alone in your house.
She was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, but nothing helped her until she met Dr. Michael Mithoefer, who was researching MDMA as a part of therapy. MDMA, of course, is better known by its street name, ecstasy. Take a look here, at least 99 different types of pills, as you see right there. When taken, it causes the brain to be flooded with neurotransmitters, especially serotonin, and that's the key to our moods and our emotions. Some doctors say it's the well-known effects of ecstasy, open alertness, euphoria, calmness, that could prove useful when it comes to therapy. Mithoefer's pilot study involved 21 patients. Those getting MDMA with therapy saw more improvement in their mental well-being than patients who got a placebo. Just as important, there were no major side effects. Some illicit ecstasy users run into problems like a rapid heart rate and depression.
I'm excited that we got this kind of result, but it is only a first step.
Did it work?
Oh, I'd say absolutely.
I'm just going, wow, I can't believe I have this in my head. I can't believe it's in me.
I had recurrent dreams since I was a little kid. It's like I'd be walking through a house and the lights would turn out, and then this force would overwhelm me. After the MDMA, I fought it once, and it never happened again.
4 years since the last MDMA session, the nightmares are gone.
I don't think there's any doubt that some people have been scared away from MDMA use by what they've been told. They saw that picture of holes in the brain and they said, okay, not my brain. So I think that the, if you will, the propaganda effort has had its impact.
The U.S. government's claim that ecstasy causes devastating, irreversible brain damage was a dramatic exaggeration of the risk. And remember Dr. Riccardi's 2002 study, the one that claimed humans could develop Parkinson's disease from one common recreational dose of ecstasy? This dire warning was based on experiments performed on monkeys, injected with what Dr. Riccardi claimed was ecstasy.
Other items in the national news tonight. One of the country's leading researchers into the effects of the drug ecstasy has admitted a major flaw in his research. Dr. George Riccardi of Johns Hopkins University has retracted a study published last year which claimed that a single night of using ecstasy can cause serious brain damage and even Parkinson's disease. Dr. Riccardi admitted he mistakenly gave methamphetamine, a far more toxic substance than ecstasy, to the monkeys he used in the study.
The government has been determined to stop the spread of ecstasy by making dramatic claims about brain damage that are exaggerated and unconvincing. And the ecstasy users we talk to are simply not listening.
It's called dimethyltryptamine. It's produced by your pineal gland. It's actually a gland that's in the center of your brain. It's the craziest drug ever. It's the most potent psychedelic known to man. Literally, but the craziest thing is about it, it's natural, and your brain produces it every night as you sleep.
This leaf here is the chacruna leaf, and this vine here is the ayahuasca vine. And the two of these together are what make the magical brew and the healing medicine that we drink in the ayahuasca ceremonies.
It's a human neurotransmitter. It exists in every single one of us, and yet it's one of the most illegal substances in the world. It's more illegal than heroin. It's just as illegal as it is the most illegal substance you could possibly get. Yet it exists in almost every ecosystem. It's in grasses and animals. It's the pineal gland that produces it. Literally, is your third eye. In reptiles, it actually has a retina, a cornea, and a lens.
When we increase this compound inside of our brain, what we're really doing is increasing awareness. We're increasing our connection with Source. We're empowering ourselves, and we're actually activating the body. We're becoming more aware of our experience of life here on Earth. Here's something else that's really interesting about the pineal gland, is that it actually starts to calcify as we get older. But the calcification is actually caused from the fluoride that's in water. That's right, the very tap water that you drink.
Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, one of the great spiritual teachers of our time, proposed that all occurrences of violent conflict arise from the accumulation of collective stress. The act of one person meditating has a positive effect on the collective consciousness, but for every additional person meditating at that same time, the effect is increased exponentially. In one study dealing with 48 different U.S. cities, 24 cities were sent intentions to decrease crime. The study showed that when meditation was performed, and by only 1% of their total population, the crime rates dropped 22% and the crime trend dropped 89%.
You remember in the experiment in Japan, which we now call the 100th monkey theory, where they were watching these little Japanese monkeys, but it was a little female monkey who learned how to take the sweet potato that had sand all over it and wash it, and then she taught her other kids how to do it, and then the moms sat there and said, hey, that's a pretty good idea, and they started doing it too, and it got to a certain number, and nobody knows what that number is, but it reached approximately 100, and when it did, bam, in a single moment of time, in less than one day, in less than 24 hours, it spread over the entire island. They all started washing them. It spread to other islands that were not even connected, and islands, many different islands, and all the monkeys of that species started washing their potatoes. It even spread to the mainland of Japan, where these monkeys started washing the potatoes, and it did it in like that.
Both the Maharishi effect and the 100th monkey effect are more demonstrations of the collective consciousness shared among all human beings. And what it is saying is that if only a small amount of people focus their attention on a single goal, not only does it have a large effect on reality itself, but the very act of creating peace within each of us as individuals exponentially changes every person on earth. To change the world, all we have to do is change our minds. All of these examples of the unified field of consciousness at work in the physical plane of existence can be explained using the holographic model of reality.
The human body is a holographic image of the entire creation of the universe, and that we live in a hologram. If you take a photograph of a hologram and you rip off a little piece of it, it contains the image of the whole thing, even though you just ripped off a little piece of it. Well, your body, your physical body, is the same way. You are a hologram of everything.
That's the way it goes. Each point contains the whole. Each point has all information. Each point is connected to all other points in the universe. And then the universe arranges the points in all sorts of different ways and makes all of the things we see.
These are all holograms. Some of them, the best ones, can look as solid as you and me. These are all holograms, with no space, no 3D, just the appearance of it. That's what we're doing. Taking vibrational information and decoding it into a holographic world that appears to be out there, but isn't. So, in a decoded state, this is what the world looks like. In an undecoded state, they are energetic vibrational fields.
People are going to realize that we do live in a holographic universe, okay? Physical reality, what we think it is just a mere illusion, okay? It's very flexible. You can change it by just thinking of the world you want to live in, and the reality itself will crystallize, and it'll form itself according to what you believe in.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride, and we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try and tell us that. You ever notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. A choice right now between fear and love.
You can't fear if you know what you are, because all that happens if I die tonight, I just go home. I can't be killed. I cannot be killed.
We human beings never die. Our spirit continues going on.
And you have to know now that only the fearless will take the next stage. Only those who seek the Most High will even draw breath.
You consider the fact that most of the people who are in the Illuminati do not want to be in the Illuminati. There would be a mass exodus, a mass revolt, if they could get out. But they can't, because you are punished with death if you leave. You reading this stuff and you're worrying about this stuff, you are worshiping the Illuminati. That is worship. You are paying fealty with fear, because that's all they need. Hitler's quote, "I do not care for the allegiance of the people. All we ask for is their fear." That's all they want. So when you fear them, they win.
If you become, like my grandfather, focused on service and love and giving thanks consistently to our great Creator, there won't be a Rockefeller, a Rothschild, or a Kissinger who will terminate you before your time.
I also almost fell off my seat when I watched this Disney movie called Monsters, Inc. If you haven't seen Monsters, Inc., the story was that in the monster world, as they called it, they had no energy source. And so what they did, they had a power station in the monster world, and the people working for it used to turn up to work every morning, line up, and then these doors would come up in front of them, symbolic of interdimensional doorways. And then when the hooter went off or whatever, they walked through that doorway and they walked into a child's bedroom in the human world. They went into another dimension. And the monster's job was to frighten the child. When the child screamed, to catch the scream, the fear, in a tube thing, and come back into the monster world to then power that, because it had no energy source. And I thought, sod in hell, I've heard that somewhere before.
When you feel fear towards someone who is oppressing you, your fear shoots energy back into their field. Okay? When you feel fear, you are shooting energy out of your field. When you feel love and trust, you are building energy from the cosmos to yourself.
is the one.
What I realized, Dr. Powell, dying is something you have no control over. Why waste your life being afraid of it? I'll sleep on my stomach from now on. I'll eat fish with bones in it. I'll swallow the biggest pill you can find. Bring it on. I feel good.
Within the heart is a sacred space where creation takes place, and that living within this sacred space changes one's relationship to all of nature and to the universe. The brain has an ego that sees itself separate from the reality and also sees itself as the most important part of the reality. But within the heart, one is not separate from the reality, but becomes one with the reality. There is no separation, and all parts are equal.
What you and I are asking ourselves to do in this lifetime, through the temples of our emotions, through the temples of our relationships, is to find that balance between the logical mind and the wisdom of the heart, and live that balance day in and day out. That becomes the compassion that we choose to have in our lives. Every emotion, each feeling, each response that you choose to any given situation affects every other person on this earth to some degree. That's the beauty of the holographic model. That's the power in compassion.
Your heart has a little cavity between the two ventricular of the heart. And that little cavity has the highest electromagnetic field of your body. It can be measured up to 8 feet away from you.
If we simply, with love and thanks, it's real easy, continue to put out these frequencies and these sounds, that the spiritual renaissance will literally solve all the earth's problems.
If someone sends you hate and you react with hate, then you're acting at the lowest level it's possible to act at. If someone sends you hate and you react indifferently, you're sort of average. But if someone sends you hate or anger and you react with love, because that's what's inside, and that's all you have to give away, because that's how you choose to use that dimension that is in back of your form, or suffusing your form, then that is what you will start expecting and seeing in your world. And it becomes a way of living.
There's some kind of bigger thing we can all appreciate. And it sounds like you don't mind calling it God. But when you forgive, you love. And when you love, God's light shines on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the true thing is, I know we're creating a scene, but creating a scene is not illegal. You were born free, you will live free, you will die free. You are allowed to make a scene, you're allowed to scream for joy, you're allowed to complain, you're allowed to cry, you're allowed to love people, you're allowed to hug people. And we're starting to live in a world where we're starting to feel scared. We're starting to forget just how divine and special we are as human beings. Every single one of you is the only example of you that will ever exist. And there's not a single authority on this world, especially not private security men, who can tell you how to behave in any time, any place, anywhere.
We can choose our future. We can choose to have a world with peace, a world without disease, a world without want, a world without pollution and dead whales, we can start to become what we really are, which is a gardener not just of our garden here on earth, the Eden that we were given, but a gardener of the galaxy.
So it comes back to people taking personal responsibility for what they think, what they want to believe, and what it is that they want to create.
Every one of us has a vote in terms of what happens in this time in the history of the world, because the vote is a non-verbal vote made with our hearts. We now know that the human heart is directly tied, directly linked to the fields of the earth that literally regulate the systems of the weather and the climate and the temperature. And when we feel certain ways in our body, our heart fields literally are registered by satellites orbiting 200 miles above the earth. That's how much influence we have.
This is what's happening now. We're starting to wake up, and we have the opportunity now. It's a wonderful time to be alive, because all these things are coming together in this point we call time, where we have the opportunity to break out of this cycle of mental and emotional imprisonment. We're being offered the key with knowledge, with understanding, with the gathering, opening awareness, and with the energy change that's underpinning that. It's now a time for us to decide if we're going to take the key and turn it.
And I am privileged to be alive in the most important era in the history of the human race.
We are witnessing the transition from the prison society to the paradise society, if you like, or the freedom society.
And we can't see that right now. I mean, we can hint at it, we can feel, we can see that there is tremendous change happening around us. But the kinds of changes that are about to occur, they will be rather surprising to people.
You will no longer work to have to eat, to have to clothe yourself, to have to put a roof over your head. That will not be a part of our reality in the near future. We are no longer slaves to their systems. We will be contributing, nurturing our natural talents to our communities, because we will have that want inside of ourselves. We won't live under the energy of competition, of greed, of power, okay, of extreme egos. That will not be part of our existence. That will all be dissolved. That's what all the pain and suffering is that we're going through now, is dissolving that within each and every one of us. And then you will have free time to express yourself and just be you. All the technological devices we will be using will be either exactly in equilibrium with the harmonics of this planet, or will be beneficial to the planet, will add. There will be nothing allowed to operate which will take any longer.
Our evolution is not an evolution of individuals. Our evolution is an evolution of community. Human beings, individual humans, each one of you, each one of us, is a cell in a larger community, coming together to share awareness to create one living organism, and it would be called humanity.
Okay.
We are not humans until we create humanity. When we create humanity, which is when we all recognize that we're all cells in the same living organism and work in a coherent fashion, we have then created the next level of evolution. And when humanity is complete, the Earth as an organism completes its evolution. It's a living, breathing, pulsing Gaia. It is now complete. When it is complete, when the cell completed its evolution, what was its next level of recourse?
Hook up with other cells.
Right, and when the human completed its evolution, what was it? To hook up with other humans.
Right.
When the Earth completes its evolution, we are then at the level of a unity with a voice of unity that allows us to speak as a one, which will allow us to speak with other ones.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Every one of us is a soul on a journey who has taken a dive through space and time to have a third-dimensional experience for the purpose of remembering and evolving on our way back to the source. On the level of perception, evolution means an expansion of awareness, a growing realization of our true origin as an integrated participant and aspect of all that is. But since all we are is energy, then what does evolution mean on the level of vibration?
What you're going to see now are what happens to particles of sand and other various particles when a sound resonates across a plate and resonates those particles in tune with the sound. Because when we think, we're not just sending out a wave which resonates the energy, we're sending out on a frequency outside of the range of human hearing, we're sending out a sound. Everything is sound. When we think a sound goes out, it resonates the energy around us to that sound. And what you're about to see are some pictures that show this happening when sound is introduced, and how sound takes random particles and turns it into astonishing form.
Everything owes its existence solely and completely to sound. Sound is the factor which holds it together. Sound is the basis of form and shape.
So what you're looking at here is merely particles formed into patterns by sound. They were all over the place to start with, just in random positions on the plate. As soon as the sound appears, they form into these patterns, because everything is sound, and it is sound that turns matter and energy into form. Patterns on the wings of birds and insects are all the manifestation of the sound vibrations. Every organ in our body resonates to a certain frequency. And when our thoughts and emotions and stress and the vibrations that causes de-harmonize the vibrational state of our various parts of our body, we become ill. We think ourselves into illness because we're affecting the vibrational state of the body. And so every time you think and feel, you're resonating a frequency which is making the energy around you resonate to the same frequency. What you give out is what you create. Here you're seeing mini galaxies just formed by particles and sound. This is how the galaxies and the universe and the solar systems were formed and continue to be held in the structure they're in through sound. If the sound changes, the matter changes, the energy changes. So when you look at what it says in texts like even the Old Testament, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was sound. And sound is everything. When you think and feel, you're creating sound. And we've seen the galaxies, and now here are the planets forming, just on a plate from particles caused by sound passing through them. This planet has a resonant frequency. It's called the Schumann cavity resonance. But basically, while that frequency holds, the planet will hold its present form. If the frequency changes, the form will change. It's the same with everything.
We believed up until recently that this number 7.8 was a constant, that every second that we experience, that Earth pulses a certain number of times. Well, something interesting began to happen in the, again, in the mid to late 1980s. What we see is this. There's 7.0, here's 8, 7.8, all the way through 1970s, 1980. In the mid to late 1980s, 86, 87, right around in there, that number began to increase mysteriously. And it went from 7.8 to 8 to 8.23 to 8.6. At the end of 1995, the number was validated at 8.6 cycles per second. In just a few years, it had been a constant throughout the time that we had been measuring this parameter. Now, in early 1996, researchers are reporting numbers as high as 9 cycles per second. And what we're seeing is this, that as we move forward in time, this vibration is increasing, and again, it's nonlinear. The more it increases, the faster it increases.
The interesting part about the Schumann resonance is that it lies directly in the heart of the alpha brain frequency. So when one meditates and slows the mind down to the alpha level, they are literally tapping into the mind of the planet and becoming one with nature. As Mother Nature increases our vibrations, it becomes easier to align ourselves with nature, and this creates changes in us physically, mentally, and spiritually. We all still have free will to put out whatever vibrations we wish based on our thoughts and emotions, but one cannot escape the positive effects that will result from the Earth's frequency changes.
Because of the reduced adhesion, the particles of iron have certain degrees of freedom. They can move, fall into line, form figures, and almost dance, but only in obedience to the vibration imposed.
Each of us is like a leaf blowing in the wind, free to dance and sing and play, but divinely guided on our way. Water is the source of all biological life on this planet. Most people assume that we know all there is to know about it, but this is not the case. Scientists now admit that they have very little understanding of this amazing substance which we all take for granted. Water is the only substance that can exist in 3 states. It is also the only substance that expands when it is cooled. Recent scientific advancements, beginning with the work of Masaru Emoto, have discovered some of the most amazing things about water. The most profound discovery, perhaps of all time, is that water has memory, and is most highly influenced by human thought and emotion.
The consciousness of water is kind of like Professor Rustam Roy at Penn State calls an alphabet. You can give it new words and new sentences, and therefore it structures itself differently according to the information you give it.
We have carried out many experiments on the effect that quite diverse factors have on samples of water. Magnetic fields, electrical fields, various objects, and also including a human presence and human emotions. And it became clear that positive and negative human emotions are the strongest element of influence.
This example that Masaru Emoto really started, the idea of cryogenically flash freezing water after it's been exposed to emotion, music, thoughts, and different intentions. And we see, for all the people who know Masaru Emoto, he's pretty much a legend now. You see that this idea that cryogenically, instantaneously freezing water, we're freezing the structure of the information inside of water, and it gives us different architectures.
So love increases water's energy levels and stabilizes the water, while aggressive emotions reduce the energy and make radical changes in the water.
What we find is that when we look at ordinary tap water, which most of us are drinking in our cities, it just has horrible structure, horrible architecture, and it basically is robbing us of energetics.
音楽は振動そのものですから、その音楽を水に課せる。
thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us.
If we introduce this water into the human body, then that human body will assimilate this information, which may change the person's characteristics.
Intellectually, at the level of thoughts, a person who sends negative thoughts is polluting his own water, of which his body is 75 to 90% composed.
Most studies done into the frequencies of cancer viruses and other diseases in the body, there is a disharmonic. There's a disharmonic energetic. The positives on using restructured water on the human body are miraculous. For example, Perla, an immunologist in Nevada, shows us an example on Water, the Great Mystery, where we take a person with heart disease and she shows all the blood cells are all stuck together and it's almost like they can't breathe, they're suffocating. And she gives the patient a small glass of restructured water and then tests their blood only 10 minutes later. This shows you how fast this can happen. And 10 minutes later, under the microscope, the same person's blood is now all buoyant. There's electrical static charge around every blood cell. None of them are stuck together. They're all floating around. And they can breathe again, which means the body can heal.
Other people say that they have put an intent into the water to preserve the cut flowers and they do not wilt. Others say they use them to make their growing flowers bloom brighter. I have one report of a person giving it to their dog and the cataracts on the dog's eyes disappearing. I've got one major report of a person who had suffered Crohn's disease, which supposedly is incurable. For 18 years, I have an email from him that he no longer has Crohn's disease after drinking the water for 10 days.
Now it's like the research is exploding. I mean, people like Kurt Worthlitz, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry, Martin Chaplin, he's professor at London South Bank University. Martin Chaplin is one of the pivotal scientists and professors at a major university who's in the middle of this argument over whether water has memory and consciousness or not. And when you read his paper, which I had the pleasure to read, you see that the evidence in support of water having memory and consciousness is so overwhelming, and the arguments against it are because we don't know why and how it has memory and consciousness. And because we can't explain how it works, he says we can't even explain how gravity and why gravity works, yet we know gravity exists. The observations are consistent across the board over hundreds of researchers into this phenomenon. You can restructure water to reclaim polluted water lakes. Whole lakes, utterly devastated by environmental pollution, have been reclaimed in 3 years by introducing restructured water. Everything not only has structure, like water has structure and memory in a sense, but what if there are actual pictures and memories in the water, just like our heads, our brains, as Kurt Worthlitz says, the Nobel Prize winner, your head is full of water, which is that where the memories are. Human beings hear between 20 and 20,000 hertz, so we don't actually hear the sound of the sun. The sun does make a sound as it moves through the fabric of space, but it's so quiet that when NASA recorded it in deep space, they compressed or concentrated the waves into the audible spectrum. The researchers are astounded, David. They're telling me they've never seen anything. They've never seen water restructured to this level of absolute perfection. It is so incredible. When I got the photograph, and they just gave it to me recently, and the energetics data, which apparently was off the chart. There was no technology, there was no system known to humanity that could restructure water to the level that this sound could do.
So what can we learn from this? The study of cymatics has shown us that energetically we must increase our vibrations in order to evolve. And through the crystallization of water, we can see that when water is given love or a vibration harmonious to nature, it is much more complex and symmetrical. From this we can conclude that nature itself is love, and that love is the key to increasing our vibrations, thus furthering our evolution.
Junk DNA, what we really should call it, is the kingdom of heaven.
Now we know, our own researchers have validated that what we've always believed was a fixed code of DNA is not fixed. We live a variable code of DNA. It's like we came into this world with very specific parameters preset at the factory, if you will, factory options. And as we come to terms with what life offers to us, we have the opportunity to turn on new patterns, to turn on new codes.
It's clear that it is some kind of a language or code that is buried in junk DNA. Now, that information is what you and I and William and all of us are moving toward accessing. We will crack the code. And when you do totally crack the code, you literally change your body's nature.
And it turns out the mind is what's above the genes. And it's the mind that controls the genes. And when people in the world can own this, not as, well, that's a neat idea, but as a fact, then it says, well, if you want to change your life and you want to express different characters or traits, then it's incumbent upon you to know that your mind is involved with actually creating that ability, that behavior, that genetic expression that allows you to control what you want in your life. So we go from victim to master in this new biology.
Within just recent years, through the HeartMath Institute, people like Dan Winter working with HeartMath, what has been discovered is this, is that there is a switch that turns off and turns on where those coding sites lie, and that the switch for that turning off and turning on is what we call emotion. And this is the first time that we've ever seen the patterns of emotion directly physically linked to human genetic material. So what I'm saying is this: when you look at the double helix, the green is the double helix of the DNA on this image. What Dan Winter says is the long wave of emotion programs this shorter wave of DNA. So emotion, the long wave, the long red wave of emotion, wherever this wave of emotion touches, where it crosses this double helix, is what determines where the site is that that code will either be turned off or turned on. If we're going to have an antenna at this site, it will only be turned on if the wave of emotion crosses this, this double helix.
The reason, or one key reason, why the imposition of fear and the manipulation of fear has been imposed upon the human race all these thousands of years since this control began is because it comes from a level of knowledge that understands how these things work.
your body is a mechanism that can take you back and forth in time and enable you to physically cross the universe. It is the most powerful piece of technology that has ever existed in this universe.